says, you always say that we are from Ahle Sunnah wal jamah or Ahle Hadith. Where did this come from? At the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they were all Muslims. True. Then what happened afterwards? They remained to be Muslims until what is known as a Shia came to existence. And they started dividing the Ummah. And after a while, or actually before the Shia, Al-Khawarij came at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. So we have Al-Khawarij. Then we have the Rafidah, Shia. Then we have Al-Murji'ah. Then we have Al-Jahmiyyah, and those sects that came out of them, such as Al-Mu'tazila, and the sects that came out of them, such as Al-Asha'ir, etc., who are sharing some of the principles, but in general, there were so many of them. So basically speaking, when someone asks you, what are you? You say, I'm a Muslim. وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. There's no one better in rhetoric than a person who calls to Allah, does righteous deeds, and proclaims that I am among the Muslims. However, nowadays, if you say I'm a Muslim, people would go a bit further, said, what kind of a Muslim? And you would say, I'm not a Rafidi, I'm a Sunni. So they say, okay, the Rafida is like 8%, but 92% of the Sunnah have deviant sects and cults in them. So what kind of them? So you have to start explaining yourself. And the scholars say that the hadiths of the Prophet ﷺ, عَلَيْكُمْ بِسُنَّتِي وَسُنَّةِ الْخُلَفَاءِ الرَّاشِدِينَ الْمَهْدِيِّينَ مِنْ بَعْدِي. Abide by my sunnah, by my way, and by the sunnah and the way of the righteously guided caliphs. So this is why we call ourselves Ahle Sunnah. And also we call ourselves wal jamah because the Prophet ﷺ told us that Allah's hand is with the jama'ah, and whoever goes astray would go to hellfire. So the scholars selected this terminology, this name, Ahle Sunnah wal jama'ah, that has no sect, that has no cult that it attributes itself to. Rather, anyone who says Ahle Sunnah wal jama'ah by default has to go back to the Sunnah, which is the Hadith, which is the guideline that he walks and abides by, and the Jama'ah of the Muslims. So he abides by the Muslim ruler, whom Allah Azza wa Jal and His Messenger ﷺ ordered us to obey, the Muslim ruler, even if he was sinful. So this is where it came from. And nowadays, ignorant people may come and say, this was not at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. True. Also, printing the Quran was not at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, but it is a necessity, and it was needed. Having masjids with carpets and air conditioning and lights and microphones and speakers was not at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. But again, so it is not for laymen to come and just simply scratch off things they don't understand or they cannot comprehend. Rather, it is for the scholars of the deen. And it's like someone coming and asking, how is it this neurosurgeon is doing this procedure to remove something from the spinal cord and to do this? Akhi, who are you? What did you study? I did biology in primary school. Subhanallah. Now you're questioning this. So again, we have to be really careful when we question things about religion, and when we try to find justifications, ask. This is totally permissible, but not object. And there's a big difference, and Allah knows best.